Today we are going to learn a sonnet 29 written by William Shakespeare, coming under the book Ways with Words. Before going into the sonnet 29, let's have an introduction about the poet William Shakespeare, the English poet, playwright, and actor, greatest writer in English language and world's preeminent dramatist. He is the national poet of England. His famous works include Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. He has written about 154 sonnets, and sonnets are some of the famous works of Shakespeare. His famous sonnets include Sonnet 18, Sonnet 116, and Sonnet 73. So, this is a general introduction about William Shakespeare, who has written the Sonnet 29, a poem. Um, these are the important points which you could include when writing about an introduction of writing a poem introduction. You could include these poems, so these points about the poet. Now, moving into a brief discussion about what a sonnet is. So, this question is usually being asked in question papers of Calicut University. That what do you call a sonnet, and how are they divided according to their rhyme schemes? Okay, so basically, this is a direct question, 5 mark question arising in every question paper. So, it's a very important question. Now, talking about a sonnet, it is a lyric poem of about 14 lines written in a single stanza. So, it's actually a poem with 14 lines, which conveys a deep meaning. So, sonnet is basically divided into two based on the rhyme schemes they follow. That is the Petrarchan sonnet and the English sonnet or the Shakespearean sonnet. Okay, now let's look into each of these kinds of sonnet. First one, the Petrarchan sonnet. The Petrarchan sonnet follow a rhyme scheme of A, the first two stanzas, which forms the octave. Okay, so basically, when you write the first 4 lines, then 4 lines, this together forms the octave. Okay, A, and again the A. These forms the octaves. Okay, then the next second part of these sonnet comes as 3 lines, which is again divided into two stanzas. This is the sestet form, and this is the octave form. So this is how they follow a rhyme scheme. Then talking about the next kind of sonnet, that is the Shakespearean sonnet, which consists of the 14 lines. The first 12 lines are being divided into 3 quatrains with 4 lines each. So, talking about Shakespearean poet, it also has the 14 lines, and the first 12 lines are being divided into 3 stanzas, and each stanza having 4 lines, right? So when you'll see the sonnet 29, you'll get an idea of how a Shakespearean sonnet looks like. And then after these 3 quatrains, we have 2 lines at the end, which probably is written in a rhyme scheme of GG, and which is called the couplet, which is a very important term. So couplet is actually 2 lines at the end of a sonnet, of coming in Shakespearean sonnet basically. And then when we talk about the quatrains, they mainly establish the main theme of the poem, and the couplet is actually the whole solution. When a poet comes into the end of the poem, he brings out the solution in the last 2 lines, called the couplets. Next, moving into the sonnet number 29, let's have an introduction about the poem first of all. So, Sonnet 29 is an autobiographical poem written by Shakespeare. So, it's actually about the poet himself when he presents his state in a most insecure and troubled situation. He considers himself as the most unluckiest, shamed, and jealous. He becomes jealous of other people. This is a kind of a depressed feeling when the poet arises. So, however, the poet's anxiousness is being a mystery throughout the poem. He doesn't reveal the reason behind his depressed feelings and all. But however, as I've told you, the couplet is the thing where the poet comes out with the solution of the whole thing. So, in the last 2 lines, he conveys that when he meets his friend, he is totally out of that depression. He forgets all the worldly happiness. He compares his state as the most secured one and the most wealthier as compared to even a king's state. So, let's move into the poem and see what a Sonnet 29 is about. So, the yeah, this is the Sonnet 29. It's actually about the power of love to positivity affects one's mindset. So, as you could see, it's being divided into 1, 2, and 3 quatrains, right? 3 quatrains are there, and then finally you could see a couplet at the ending, right? A couplet. This is a couplet which actually is written in a GG rhyme scheme, and then the first 3 stanzas form the quatrains. Each stanza has 4 lines. Now let's look into the line by line meaning of it. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone bewipe my outcast state. So here, the poet Shakespeare feels that he's out of his luck and that the public sees him as an unfavorable person. Shakespeare is implying that his state is a state of loneliness and is outcast from the society. Here, he says that his outcast situation in the sense. See, this is a very important term coming under. This has been asked as a question every time. So this outcast state actually refers to his social outcast situation. This refers to the poet's remaining jobless. Actually, in England, there was a plague during 1592. During that the outbreak of the plague, many poets went jobless because theaters were shut down. And the another reason for his depressed feeling and disgraced feeling or the sorrow feeling could be due to the bitter attack by his fellow playwright Robert Greene. Okay, so this could be the major reasons for his outcast state. Now, moving on towards the next lines, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and I look upon myself and curse my fate. Here in these lines, he's making an allusion to the book of actually this is a statement taken from Bible, in which one who was cast out onto dung heap and called God who didn't listen. He compares his situation with the same person. He says that when he look into the heaven and cries and calls for God, but he doesn't get any answers. So here he compares the heaven. He personifies the heaven as God, and then he says the heaven as death. That is, he has been using the term personification. He has personified heaven as God, and then even his bootless cries that his cries are useless. Okay, then wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him the friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contested least. So these lines here, Shakespeare reflects the effects that love has on his state. In the line 11, he implies that he prefers the day rather than night because he is much happier. Then he compares, he, as you could see in the lines, like to the lark at the break of the day. The lark actually refers, this is a very important term coming, the term lark, which is the he finds days better than nights actually. So this is a kind of simile being used in the poem, in which he says, like to the lark at the break of the day arising from this swollen earth. That means he prefers or he finds himself more happier during day than at nights. So the last two lines, for these which I love remembered, much wealth brings than I score to change my state with kings. So here he says that my state, when he gets a better friend, he says that my state is more better than any king's state. He says that even I get the position or the wealth of a king, I won't be much happier when I get a friend. So he brings out the importance of a friend in a life. He compares that he's more happier than all the wealth of a king that won't be more better than getting a good friend. So here the whole depressed feeling of the poet is being resolved just by getting a good friend. Now the main themes being discussed in the poem is actually self pity. That means he's totally depressed at the beginning of the poem. Self hatredness, and then love is the thing which overcomes such depressed feelings or the negative feelings. So he comes out of the depression just because of the term love. Okay. Then the style, it is an iambic pentameter and follows a traditional sonnet. As I've told you, he follows the traditional Shakespearean sonnet. And then the rhyme scheme of the poem is A B A B C D C D E F E F, and then the last two lines forming the couplet G G. Okay, these are the question answers. So Shakespeare has written dash number of plays and dash number of sonnet. That is 37 plays and 154 sonnets. Now, what is a tragic flow? The fundamental tragic trait of the Shakespearean hero is interest, passion, and particular habit of mind that lead to the downfall. Then talking about the rhyme scheme of Shakespearean sonnet is A B A B C D C D E F E F, and the last two G G. Two major types of sonnets, that is the Shakespearean or the English sonnets and the Petrarchan or Italian sonnets. These are the two main types of sonnets. Then the figure of speech used in like to the lark at the break of the day. As I've told you, it's an important thing. Like to the lark at break of the day. So this is a figure of speech being used as simile. So we have compared something to something. So we use the term like over here. So this is a comparison. So we call it as a simile. Name any four tragedies written by Shakespeare. So these are some of the famous works by Shakespeare. We have discussed at the beginning of this poem: King Lear, Macbeth, Hamlet, Othello. These are the famous works. Now, the important question from this poem is the word state is being continuously used in this poem. As I've told you, the word state is repeated thrice in this poem just to indicate the different states of the poet. Shakespeare repeats the word state, playing on this ambiguity in the meaning, kingdom, and situation. So in the second line, my outcast state, he means that during the plague time he was jobless, and at that time he was want to convey his situation. And during that plague, he was a plague, he was jobless. And another reason for his outcast state would be the better rivalry of Robert Greene, a fellow playwright. And then again in the 10th line, a little obvious that the state is used as a pun, because it does neatly anticipate the meaning of that final couplet. Because you see, he says that the state of king is not being, even if he gets the state of a king, he won't be much satisfied. He won't be much satisfied even with the wealth of the king than when he gets a king. I mean, than when he gets a good friend to talk about and to talk about. Yes. So this is all about this poem, Sonnet 29. Thank you.